A Boy and His Blob feels like a game a developer came up with at 3 o'clock in the morning after drinking too much cough syrup. Here's a story. An evil emperor takes over Blobonia and makes everyone live off junk food. Blob, full legal name Blobbert, does what any rational blob alien would do and rockets off to the first planet he finds, which happens to be Earth, where he meets Boy. The Boy and his Blob team up to save Blobolonia from the evil empire by using Blob's ability to shapeshift when you force feed him jelly beans. Yeah, Blob flew across the galaxy to escape a tyrant who was forcing everyone to eat junk food just so he could come to Earth and live off jelly beans. Every jelly bean turns Blob into an alliterative shape, like Tangerine turning him into a trampoline or Licorice turning him into a ladder. And you use these different abilities to navigate the world. A Boy and His Blob is basically a puzzle game. You get dropped into a big open world and you have to use Blob's different powers to figure out how to get around. A Boy and His Blob is broken up into two sections. In the first, you're exploring caves underneath a subway that are filled with treasure, because why not? You use Blob's powers to avoid hazards and collect piles of gold and giant diamonds that someone just left lying around. And then you take your immense wealth to buy vitamins that you shoot from a gun. This will become important later in the second half of the game when you go to Blobolonia and take the fight to the Emperor. When you feed Blob a root beer jelly bean, he turns into a rocket and flies you through space to Blobolonia. Apparently in this universe, air isn't that big a deal. And you get to this part with falling cherries and you need to use your Vita Blaster to shoot the cherries out of the sky. Because apparently these cherries are filled with tiny thermonuclear devices that will kill you when they hit the ground, even if you're on a different screen. Or you can glitch the system by turning Blob into a coconut, throwing him across the screen, and despawning the cherries, making the entire first half of this game completely pointless. But whatever. You make your way through the factory, and you face the Emperor, who's taken Blob prisoner, somehow, and keeps a giant jar of vitamins, his only weakness, on a little shelf right above his head, for some reason. You toss Blob an apple jelly bean, turning him into a jack. Applejack, get it? Knocking the jar of vitamins onto the Emperor and ending his junk food fueled empire once and for all. Everyone lives happily ever after, except for Blob, who I'm sure by now has developed a sugar addiction. And that was A Boy and His Blob. It was a cute little game from my childhood. It got okay reviews, won a couple awards, and then faded into Nintendo's history. Or so I thought, because when I thought about doing this video, I actually found out there was a remake. So screw it, double feature. The story's the same. Evil Emperor, Blob flees Blobolonia, meets Boy, develops diabetes, and the gameplay is essentially the same. You feed Blob jelly beans, he shapeshifts, and you use his different powers to navigate a world of puzzles. Except now they're enemies. See, in the original game, the hazards were just getting around the world. There was one enemy, this weird jumping snake thing, and when you got to Blobolonia, there were hazards like the cherries. But in the remake, the Emperor has all these weird inky minions you have to deal with, either by avoiding them, crushing them, or using them to solve puzzles. And now there are boss fights also. The other change that the remake made is that there's no longer just two sections of the game. The entire game is broken up into 4 worlds, and each world has several different levels. We no longer have a big open world to discover. We have a series of smaller self-contained worlds that are each specifically designed to show off Blob's different powers. And at the end, there's a multi-stage boss fight that tests you on the powers used in that world. The first has a giant snake you need to electrocute. The second had this weird panther-looking thing you need to hit with other enemies. And the third is a bird that is the bane of my existence. I hate the bird because it is the only boss that puts you at the mercy of the RNG gods. This thing was harder than the final boss. It almost made me quit the whole game. At least the final boss has a predictable pattern. He tries to drop some enemies on you, and then you avoid the acid, or maybe it's just water because it seems like Boy is water soluble, and then you punch him in the face with a giant robot, because there's a giant robot now, because the remake also changed some of the powers. In the first game, you were given all the jelly beans right at the beginning. You had a limited number, so you couldn't just waste them, but you got them all right at the start. But the remake is more puzzly with its puzzles. You only get certain powers for each level, and so you have to figure out how to get through it with just the tools that you're given. Some of the classics are back, like the cola bubble and the punch hole, but we got plenty of new toys to play with, like an anvil, a shield, and Mint turns Blob into a body double in the most disturbing part of this entire game. They also left the rocket in, but instead of just taking you from Earth to Blobalonia, you actually use it to get through some levels. The game also made some smaller changes, like in the first game you only see Boy, Blob, and the Emperor, but in the remake there are blobs everywhere, and they all seem to be just kind of hanging out. No one really seems upset about the whole situation except for Blobbert. I guess no one else is too upset about their new junk food focused overlord. There's also a dedicated hug button, which I used once, and also a dedicated scold button, so Boy can just yell at Blob for no reason.
No. Wait. Calm down.
And of course they added collectibles. See, when you get to a new world, Boy B&Es his way into whatever house he comes across first, and in each level there are 3 treasure chests. Find them, and you get a new useless collectible for whatever house you happen to be squatting in. A feature so exciting I stopped caring the second it took any amount of effort. But I guess it's nice for the 100% perfectionists out there. Personally, I think the game was a little too long as it is. It took me about 6 hours to get through, and by the end I was pretty done with it. I don't know if that's by the end I felt like I was repeating a lot of the same puzzles, or I was just salty from that freaking bird. But I really feel like they could have dropped the price, cut out a couple hours, and this could have been a cute little homage to a lesser known retro game. But as it is, I feel like it all just started to wear a little thin. Also, there's a level where you lose Blob and you have to navigate Boy through a factory full of pistons and buttons, and it reminded me of the game Gyromite. And how many of you were old enough to get that reference? The mold.